Chapter 5. Your second love potion. That was an excellent lift-off, Deuce! Especially considering how early in the semester it is. With a blithe and charming smile, you handed him the first cup of water off your tray. The young man beamed at your praise, taking it without a second thought. Thank you, senpai! He tossed the drink back with ungraceful haste, a few drops of water dripping down his chin. And you hadn't failed to notice the way a handful of the boys watched him warily as he did so. There was an unspoken tension in the air, which indicated at least some of them were privy to the rumors about you, in spite of their singularly short time here at Night Raven. What about you, Ace? Thirsty? Yeah, I could use a drink. Arms folded behind his head like he was lying relaxed in the grass, he strolled over and you handed him a random cup off the edge. That so-called randomness was actually deliberate, a crucial stratagem in this dangerous game. A few beats passed, and when Deuce and Ace didn't fall to the ground as if struck by lightning, the rest of the reluctant crew started converging near you. You were just as conniving and manipulative as Azul. You would never deny that fact again. You knew you were vile. You knew it was immoral. But somehow you couldn't stop yourself. There were so many things that could go wrong with this plan. So many scrutinizing eyes eager to catch you. Your mind and heart began to race as the ephemeral beauty of the freshman class floated in your direction. The longer parts of his lilac hair were tied back, but wispy bangs still framed his face fetchingly. A sudden pain struck your chest when you saw just how happy he looked to be approaching you. His ultramarine eyes beckoned you like you were old friends, like you couldn't possibly be moments away from seizing control of his neurochemical autonomy. It's not too late. You can still drop that cup. The puzzle pieces came together much too easily, in your opinion. Surely the universe should have at least tried to summon some sort of force to stop you. Whatever happened to bad karma, you wondered? Such a concept certainly appeared to be a fallacy today, as here you were, undisputed, alone with the freshman boys. Earlier in the week you had made a persuasive argument to Coach Vargas, drawing his attention to the fact that all other classes at Night Raven have upperclassmen tutors to enhance and accelerate the freshman learning experience. All other classes except physical education. You maintained that Vargas deserved a break just as any other faculty member did, and that you were more than happy to handle the lesson basics in order to give him said break. Honestly, you had to use your best Riddle impression to pull it off. That casually authoritative way he butts himself into diplomatic affairs. But forced as it was, the outcome was favorable. You had managed to successfully commandeer today's flight lesson. Why did you choose flight, one might ask? Well, aside from potions, flight was your other major talent. You figured that was merely a consequence of your bold and show-offy nature. It was expected of you, the first princess of the Sunset Savannah. And who were you to deny the call of the spotlight? You assumed, at some point in your youth, that you had inherited that trait by osmosis from your older brother Leona, as you watched him flounder helplessly just below the surface, slowly drowning in the icy depths of your eldest brother's shadow. Though one would never guess it from Leona's lackadaisical demeanor, the two of you shared the same goal, and that goal was to make a positive impact in the lives of those dearest to you, to live up to your family's ideals, lead your pride with courage and compassion, and leave a legacy that would be reverently remembered through the ages. But that was a goal for a later date. Today's goal was all about impressing Epel with each and every death-defying stunt you could pull on a broomstick. A spectator of your acts today might also question why you would risk the presence of so many witnesses. Ah, the joys of peer pressure, dear Inquisitor, you would reply. If Epel were to, say, start suspecting his emotions came from an outside source, the first logical step to take would be to ask his classmates if any of them were similarly affected. And since there was obviously no spell placed on them, after a while he would feel isolated in questioning the majority harmless drinks offered by his senior. Felmir was sweet, kind. he would instantly dismiss any thoughts that unnecessarily condemned you, and return to normal life, albeit with you now lingering in the back of his mind. Or at least that's how things played out in your head anyway. After last December's debacle with Riddle, you were sure you had overlooked at least something. A trapdoor lurking underfoot, waiting to plummet your plan into disarray. Even so, past experience led you to believe you had the upper hand on fate right now. Amidst your experimentation, a valuable tidbit about love potions had been unearthed. A grain of wisdom you were sure very few had considered while crafting one. The true ethical problem with them, and why they had been banned, was this. Even had Riddle not overdosed, the behavioral change generated from the accepted measurement still would have been far too conspicuous to go unnoticed, which meant that you could only get away with using it on someone once. Therefore, the love-stricken administrator of the potion would have no choice but to take full advantage of their victim before it wore off. You, however, were a logical and pragmatic individual. That shallow sort of thinking held no water with you. That wasn't what you wanted from Epel. Not right away, at least. So he needed to consume a minute dose. One so subtle that he would start to believe those intrusive, loving thoughts were his own, perfectly mirroring the way you had caught feelings for him. They had been so gradual you hadn't noticed them creeping up through the underbrush, pouncing on your heart before you could figure out what was what. One drop. One singular drop is all you would use, diluted in his filled cup. Just enough to make his heart flutter a bit when he looked at you, bat his darling thick lashes in your direction. If done right, you could bear witness to that sweet demure blush of his, drift aimlessly along the shoreline of his mind for a few brief hours. And if he turned shy, you would pursue him to the ends of the earth. You wouldn't spellbind him the way you had Riddle. This was simply a gentle coercion, a temporary and harmless amorous contract. Wow, now you were really starting to sound like Azul. But no matter how fiercely your conscience fought back, no matter how deeply that notion sickened you, your wicked desires refused to be left unslaked. The guppy was approaching your sharp, dangling hook, waiting to be ensnared. May I have one? I'm parched.
Yes, my sweet trusting boy.
Of course. Hidden in plain sight. That was your game. Who in their right mind would have the nerve to do such a thing right here? Right now? Nay, the audacity! One would never anticipate an ambush in the broad daylight, surrounded by peers, no. However, there was one last obstacle you had to navigate in order to pull this off, and that obstacle was timing. Granted, the spell made it so that the first person you make eye contact is the one you fall for. But unfortunately, the tricky elixir was not instantaneous. It took 12 seconds to take effect on Riddle. This was why you had made sure the first time to get Riddle alone. If an agent of chaos like Ace called out Epel's name at the wrong time, or if Epel just so happened to shoot a fleeting glance at another classmate during that crucial 1-second window, you'd have to run interference between those two boys for the remainder of the night, lest his reputation be tarnished.
Here you go, Epel.
Thank you, Senpai. It was time. You had no choice but to subtly distract him. Keep his eyes locked on yours after he took the first sip.
1, 2, 3.
Epel!
No!
Your stomach dropped, and your head whipped towards the source of the interruption. It was almost like you had foreseen it, the ginger-headed landmine blowing up in your face. You deserved this. This was your recompense, your deserved fate. You had mere seconds to come up with a contingency, and act on it without consideration.
Oh, whoa!
Stumbling forward with your tray, you managed to return Epel's attention to you for an instant. He caught hold of the metal thing, and stabilized it before the drinks could topple, but in the process, dropped what was left in his cup. Are you all right?
Yeah, sorry.
Just lost my balance there. The August heat is brutal. You feigned dizziness, and his brows knit in concern for you. Hey, Epel! The chaotic force continued. Unmerciful, relentless. So after this, me and Deuce are going to— Epel! You practically barked his name inches from his face, which must have been jarring. But you couldn't afford to be polite. Not right now. My eye has been bothering me for the last half hour. It's probably just allergies. But could you take a look and see if there's anything in it?
10, 11, 12.
With bated breath, you watched as his pensive expression morphed into something else. He cleared his throat just as Riddle had, and looked into your eyes. There it was. Oh, well. He glanced down out of shyness, a soft, endearing blush blooming on his cheeks. I don't see anything there, Senpai. Despite your careful planning, what occurred in this instance was actually the very last thing you expected to happen. It worked. To be continued.